What is the oddest thing you thought was okay/normal and ended up being a medical problem? Until I was 16 I thought everyone got stomach cramps a few times a day. Turns out I'm lactose intolerant. That pulled muscle was actually a collapsed lung. After days of hot baths, massages, trying to relax nothing helped. No wonder. I thought I pulled a muscle playing with my dogs one day. 1 week later I finally go to the hospital because the pain is getting worse. Turns out I suffer from a genetic blood clotting condition and had a 2-foot log clot in my leg and multiple pulmonary embolisms on my lungs. Doctor was legit surprised I was alive. My family told me I would randomly space out, although I never remembered, all thought it was normal. Turned out, I was having absence seizures. We only found that out at a routine doctor's appointment, just conversing with the doc, when I guess I just came to and the doctor said she wanted to get a bunch of tests done. Been an epileptic for almost 17 years now. A random sharp pain above my right ear and my tongue curling slightly. I thought it was just old age. Doc recognized it instantly as something wrong with my tongue. The cancer has been cured for 7 years. I thought I was constipated for a few days. Hurt like hell. Turned out to be diverticulitis and a perforated colon. My wife called the ER and they brought me in without triage and sent a chaplain. I lost a foot of my large intestines and almost died. I thought I had bad period cramps. Then I thought I had acute food poisoning. Turns out I had ovarian torsion and my ovary was slowly dying over the course of a few days. I'd have these really minor facial twitches, like a single small muscle in my upper lip or eyebrow. Nothing even severe enough to be visible by others. However, they'd last for a few weeks straight, even while I was trying to sleep. I didn't think twice about it. They always went away on their own, after all. After I suddenly went blind in my left eye and got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, I connected the dots. As a kid I had anxiety and my heart would race fast. It felt like a hummingbird in my chest and would abruptly pause and resume a normal pace after a few minutes. At age 23 I had a bad reaction to a tricyclic antidepressant called imipramine and was rushed to the hospital. They ran an EKG and that rapid heart rate was a congenital defect known as Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome. Basically I had an accessory or second electrical system in my heart that would cause a short circuit occasionally and my heart rate would skyrocket. It was cured via a procedure using radio waves to form scar tissue around the accessory node because the impulse could not conduct through the tissue. No problems since. Depression. Apparently losing all hope and being numb to joy isn't just a part of growing up. Not sleeping or eating for days but still feeling great and having more energy than your average athlete. Turns out you're bipolar. It took my lungs collapsing at 17 years old before doctors realized I wasn't breathing in deeply enough to expand the bottom half of my lungs for basically my whole life. They asked why I never complained about shortness of breath. I never knew breathing was supposed to be easier than what I was experiencing. Get the fuck out of this thread if you have health anxiety, LOL. Apparently your belly button isn't supposed to hurt. It was an umbilical hernia. Sad face. Not me, but one of my brother's friends in high school. This friend was a goober, always making silly but friendly jokes that make families laugh as a whole, all in all a genuinely funny person. One day he took my sister's glasses and was acting like her only to pause for a moment and then say, "Wait, is this how things are supposed to look?" My man needed glasses and found out from fucking around. I'm glad the universe leaned towards him in a positive way as far as that went. Was always told periods are painful, cramps. So for years I thought my incredibly debilitating period pain was me being a little bitch about it. Turns out I have both PCOS and endometriosis and, of course, fertility issues. FML. Edit, Word. The belief that everyone listen with both ears seemed inaccurate to me until I discovered that I'm deaf in one ear. Suddenly getting dizzy, heart racing, hearing fading out, eventually throwing up and passing out if I go too long without food. Didn't learn till my mid-20s that not everyone had piles of snacks everywhere they went so they didn't end up on the floor. I've been tested for diabetes 5 times and it's not that, so who knows. Just can't get too hungry or I'm fucked, I guess. I almost cried the first time I tried medication for ADHD, my mind was so quiet and peaceful. After 40 plus years it turns out I'm not just weird or like things most didn't. Finding out you have autism that late in life is hard. Knowing that 40 plus years of life could have been easier if I only knew is very upsetting. Massively heavy periods in my 40s. I thought it was just perimenopause. Turns out it was adenomyosis. You know how you get all congested after exercising, and wheeze for a bit before everything settles down again? No. Yeah, that's because most people don't have exercise-induced asthma. I was in my 30s before I knew that was a problem and not normal. Inattentive ADHD. Got diagnosed at 54 and my life all suddenly made sense. It was like riding a bike with a flat tire and wondering why pedaling appeared to be so much easier for everyone else. Being told I'm sometimes too lazy or a dreamer, etc. Then learning at age 54 the existence of tire pumps and being able to keep up. Game changer. Still annoys me that all along, this medication was available and could have helped decades ago. I kept telling my OB I was worried about my legs/ankles swelling in the later part of my pregnancy. They dismissed it, told me all pregnant people experience it. At 39 weeks I got sent to the hospital for extra monitoring on the baby due to an irregular test. She ended up being fine but my blood pressure was crazy high. I was induced that night and then given an emergency C-section due to severe preeclampsia. Not a fun start to my baby's life, but she's here and healthy so I can't be too upset. I always thought everyone's feet hurt when they walked after a few minutes. Turns out I have completely flat feet. My husband figured this out when I was in my 20s. Not sleeping for days at a time, intense euphoria, being impulsive, feeling on top of the world and then crashing just to crawl into bed for a month or more. I thought I was just an exciting, strange girl who got depressed sometimes. Used to drop my makeup all the time when I was getting ready in the morning. Ugh, so clumsy. Ended up being myoclonic seizures. I was having another stressful argument in 2003 when I heard a ringing, my heart started beating fast, and I couldn't understand speech nor speak myself. This was for around 30 seconds. I knew something was wrong and called the advice nurse. She laughed at me and told me I had a panic attack. No, I didn't. Turns out it was a petit mal seizure. I know because I suddenly became epileptic at 27. I was told they didn't know why, but now I realize it was stress-induced. Losing weight suddenly got a little easier, and I assumed it was due to my efforts. Happy with my success, I buckled down harder. Funny how it's easy to keep being good when you're actually seeing results. I lost more. It actually got to be almost easy. I thought I was doing such a great job. Turns out it was cancer. I guess I should have known something was up, but I honestly thought I was just doing a really great job with my diet and exercise. Had 4 surgeries and treatment and I'm doing well. Now I'm on meds with all kinds of side effects, including weight gain. Yay! But I'm alive, and so much better off than many others. I've only gained a little bit back, despite working really hard not to. It was retroactive, but when I wore prescription glasses back when I was 24, the first thing I said was people are supposed to see this. Everything looked like the sharpness meter on my vision was maxed out. I just kinda thought nobody could see details in things past 20 feet lol. Bent over to pick something up and felt a twinge in my groin. I'm male. I thought perhaps it may be a hernia. I wasn't too concerned about it, then things started to ache a bit. I went to the doctor only to find out I had testicular cancer. Fortunately, after we cut out lefty and got all the results back from pathology, it was staged at 1A seminoma. Meaning the surgery alone was all the treatment I needed. Sometimes getting tingly feet. I thought I was just worn out from the day or anxious. Nope, multiple sclerosis. If you get numbness, fatigue, headaches, that ibuprofen helps but not paracetamol, tingling in your hands or feet, off balance, forgetful, brain fog, please get checked out. Especially if you have ADHD, as some of those symptoms can be written off as ADHD. Edit, how I got diagnosed, all the symptoms I put down as something else, my ADHD, anxiety, having a toddler, getting older. This time last year I started having seizures, the pee your pants, jiggle on the floor type. The neurologist put me on anti-seizure meds thinking it was epilepsy while I waited to get an MRI. The MRI showed I have white matter lesions, basically scar tissue, in my temporal lobe that had become inflamed. Temporal lobe is where most seizures come from. Seizures aren't very common in MS but still a possibility. Confirmed with a lumbar puncture. Find an MS checklist from a reputable website, fill it in and take it to your appointment. General stomach pain that I dismissed as perhaps constipation, but which would, every few years or so, send me to emergency worrying that it was my appendix. I was kicked out of emergency departments at different hospitals multiple times, because it was not. I moved to a new city and was lucky enough to score a decent family doctor who took it seriously. She told me she was rather impressed with the amount of referred pain I was having and that I should go straight to emergency. I replied that there was not a hope in hell I would subject myself to that kind of humiliation again. No way. She sent me for a CAT scan and lo and behold, it was my appendix. She referred me to a surgeon, and on the day of my surgery no one in the hospital seemed particularly interested in my condition. I think most of the medical staff thought I was having unnecessary surgery though, curiously, they were much nicer to me afterward. I recall a lot of people standing over me in the recovery room. The surgeon called me to come in for a meeting a couple of weeks later, and when I walked into his office he had an odd expression on his face. He told me my appendix was many times the normal size, probably because it had been infected and healed over the years, building up scar tissue. He asked me if I minded if he wrote it up in a medical paper or a textbook, I can't remember exactly which. He taught at the university. I gather at the time grumbling appendixes were a bit of a unicorn and there had been much debate over whether they were real. So I guess my appendix settled that argument in the medical community once and for all. Had what I thought was a pimple on my armpit that I ignored. Wasn't overly concerned, thought it was something that would just go away. A few weeks later, I came down with what I thought was some sort of flu. The flu lasted longer than normal, so I decided to go to the emergency room to get checked out. Turned out that I had a large tumor in my chest caused by lymphoma and the pimple on my armpit was actually a swollen lymph node. Mouth would be itchy when I ate most fruits. Parents told me to stop being dramatic and making excuses to be picky. I have OAS and have an EpiPen now. Also had terrible cramps and would get my period for a whole month then not for 3 as a teenager. My doctor said that could happen sometimes and put me on BC. Turns out my cramps were chronic cysts from PCOS, my body is overproducing testosterone and it was affecting a lot of other aspects of my health. Was declining in strange ways at work. Thought it was my 30s catching up to me. Nope, heart went to 10% output and had a heart attack at 33. I woke up one morning thirsty. For 8 weeks, I was drinking 5 gallons of water and pissing half the day. Not normal, but I just adapted and did it. Coughing up blood. In my defense, I was told a lot of blood was something to return to the hospital for. I guess I don't know what constitutes a lot of blood. Was hemorrhaging into my lungs. I was on my grad trip and had really intense pain around my neck and shoulders. Over the course of 2 days my limbs lost sensation, and for some reason I thought it was a trapped nerve in my neck. It wasn't until my face went into paralysis did I go to an ER and get diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. That weird lump on my neck that appeared out of nowhere was skin cancer. I'm now sitting here with 8 stitches waiting for the all clear from pathology, crossed fingers, light skin tone.